Okay. How's everybody? We're going to be doing a shorter stream tonight. Just want to react to some content with Arif Virani talking about Bill C-63. I might kind of touch on couple things before that. I know it's earlier than usual. It's a little earlier than it usually is. It's just what we're doing right now. Hope everyone's well. Kev B47, Catherine Grant, Mika Shrednick, DJ, Cameron DeBeats. Cameron DeBeats says, "Hey, Greg, love you, my friend." I love you too. Thanks for watching. We get it. We understand how bad things really are in the country. And I was talking to somebody earlier today about this, how it's very rare to find somebody in Canada who sees how bad truly things are. They recognize how bad truly things are. They're not delusional, thinking that Pierre Poilievre is going to solve our problems. And they're also not full of fear and rage and can't think of a positive solution of what to do with their time and energy. And I've seen this especially since COVID and the trucker convoy, where the people that get it, the people that see, who admit and confess how bad truly things are, unfortunately, a lot of them I feel are still kind of scattered. They're afraid, or they're not focused on an actual constructive solution, or they're not optimistic. And to be fair, it's not easy. It's really not easy to bear the burden of seeing how bad things are in this country and actually coming up with something worthwhile. But that being said, different groups are coming up with things that have a more long-term kind of solution to it. That's a big reason I started SaveFreeSpeech.ca, to focus my efforts on something I think worthwhile, which is to campaign against Bill C-63. And it's going really well. I started it back in technically July, but really August is when I really started to put a lot of time into it. And we're making a documentary, which is very exciting. The fundraiser, by the way, is at $12,000, which is amazing. We got another $100 donation last night. I got word from another bigger donor that we're going to get another $1,000 donation in here soon as well, which is amazing. Anonymous giver says, "Glad someone is fighting this fight. Keep it up." But yeah, if you want to support what we're doing to stop Bill C-63 and to discredit the smear merchants in Canada, the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, then go to givesango.com/savefreespeech. What's new? What's new with the website? Glad you asked, by the way. If you go to the news tab on SaveFreeSpeech.ca, we recently posted Antifa communists are targeting Canadian gun owners. Yes, they are. Made a whole video about this. This video I made is a week or two old, but I wanted to kind of post it in an article for people to see and understand the politics of these people and precisely what their attitude is. And these are the same people behind Bill C-63, you guys. These are the same people behind Bill C-63. This would be the enforcement of Bill C-63 would not be anything other than completely political partisanship. It would be used for political suppression. We've already seen that since the convoy, right? So this bill needs to be stopped. I don't see much energy from the Conservative Party to truly push back against this bill or throw out this bill. But yeah, with that being said, let's get into it. Let's get into the video we're going to react to here, which maybe I should actually bring up the fuller context just for the record. So this is a live stream from Canada Youth Internet Governance Forum. And they had a guest speaker, which was Arif Virani. And we're going to react to that now. Let me quickly look at the chat. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Mother of the drummer, Big D. How's it going? Great North Roofer. This country died 9 years ago. Oof. I mean, you can definitely make that argument. And yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that this is the beginning of the TSN turning point. Kind of the convoy was the TSN turning point. We just don't know it yet. I talked about this with Randy Hillier on our interview. Was that yesterday? Seems like a long time ago. I guess it was 2 nights ago. Did an interview with Randy Hillier. And I talked about how I think a lot of the seeds were planted. A lot of seeds were planted at the convoy. The mask fell off of what this Canadian government, what their true character is. Because let's not forget, the Conservative Party was essentially on board with all of the lockdowns that took the rights away of unvaccinated Canadians, where you couldn't travel, couldn't do anything. The Conservative Party, both major parties were on board with this. And the seeds were planted. Canadians saw how bad things really are. And I think we're going to see the fruits of those seeds. Not right away. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some years. But I think that's really the beginning of the TSN turning point. Because I'll say, my whole life, I wondered, what does it mean to be Canadian? What does that really mean? Is it just maple syrup? What does it mean? And I saw it at the convoy. I felt it. I experienced it. It's real. And that's for the first time ever that I felt I had really felt it and seen it and experienced it. So, yeah, that was the TSN turning point. All right, let's do this. Let's play this. I want to make sure the volume's not too loud.
Digital policy in Canada.
It's a little loud, I think.
Today, our keynote speaker, Minister
check.
will discuss this act.
All right. I gave the introduction already, so let's get into it. It's about 30 minutes. He answers some questions about Bill C-63. Let's get into it. Let's go. Let's freaking go.
And what it means for Canadian youth. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce the Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada, Arif Virani. Please join me in welcoming the Minister.
Big AV, Big Arif, let's go, buddy.
What Dana neglected to mention is that I'm also her local MP, which means we both live in the best area of the city, if not the country, which is Parkdale High Park. But how is everyone doing this morning?
Best area of the city?
Good. Je vais juste ajouter quelques petits mots en français comme une députée fédérale que je...
Fun fact, I actually ran against Arif Virani in 2019 when I ran for the PPC. I was actually at the debate table against this guy. Let me tell you, he's a dangerous politician. He's a very smooth talker. He's very good at what he does. And that's why it's really important for this project, savefreespeech.ca, because, this guy isn't like a Stephen Guilbeault bumbling around looking like some sketchy idiot. No, he's actually quite good at what he does. But, thankfully for us, he's lying because he's for the Liberal Party. And, a lot of the stuff he says doesn't make sense, and it's very easy to poke holes in his arguments, and that's what we're going to do now. So, I was actually asking a friend for a clip because in one of the debates when I was a 2019 candidate, the NDP candidate and the Green Party candidate, they turned their backs on me every time that I was speaking at a debate. It was quite an experience for those who don't know some of the background or lore. Great North Roofer says Parliament looks like kindergartners fighting over who took whose last cookie out of the jar. Just a joke, government. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad, isn't it? It's not getting any better too. And I think more and more Canadians are like seeing through it. Like I think the Canadians who have been following politics for a while have been seeing through it. And I think apolitical Canadians see it and they're like, this doesn't seem very authentic. Why are all of our Canadian politicians running around talking about different foreign interests every single day? Like more and more, it seems like 75% of the conversation had by the political class, I'm talking media pundits, I'm talking politicians, 75% of what they're talking about in Canada is a foreign issue or a foreign conflict or a foreign group. So rare is it just about like a real Canadian issue affecting Canadians. If it is, it's always just like housing or taxes. It's never about the Canadian people, right? I think that's a very interesting distinction. It's never the Canadian people, but it's like the foreign people, this foreign group, this distinct foreign group of people, identifiable group, but it's never the Canadian people and how they've been affected and disenfranchised and their statues are being torn down and their churches are burning. Right? Like none of that hits the radar. None of that hardly even is a part of the conversation. Anyway, we know this already, guys. If you're watching, you already know this stuff. We know, Greg. Move on.
Je suis tellement content d'être parmi vous autres aujourd'hui pour cet événement et pour cette discussion, parce que c'est assez important. The second thing I want to do is just acknowledge, you've already started your conference, but I will acknowledge the territory that we are on. This is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat, the Anishinaabe, and most recently the Mississaugas of the Credit. I always insist on doing land acknowledgements, but as we approach September 30th, which is our third annual day for Truth and Reconciliation, we should all be reflective about what we can do to advance reconciliation in this country. So,
yeah, just by making that comment, right? We're gonna save Indigenous people by virtue signaling. Stuff is so silly, but it is worth noting that a lot of what props up the importance of Bill C-63 is a lot of the, I'll call crudely, woke politics. It's a lot of the identity politics. So much of hate speech is dependent on hating only specific groups of people. In this case, you're allowed to hate white people. You're allowed to hate Canadian history because it's just genocidal, as he just mentioned. That's basically the implication. And a lot of the actual verbiage or the legal jargon in Bill C-63 and really across the world when it comes to hate speech in Western countries, it's identifiable groups. They use this term identifiable groups. You're not allowed to hate identifiable groups. And it essentially implies, any type of minority. That's where the hatred is going to come from. And the kind of implication is that you can't really hate white people. That's not really really going to hit the radar of this hate speech laws. I've made other content about this you've probably seen. Cool Papa J Magic says hate speech means speech that contradicts anti-whiteism. Yeah, I mean, you could say that. Lee Stewie says Arif Virani is if you ordered Justin Trudeau from Temu. Yeah, he's the brown Justin Trudeau.
So it's really important for me to be here. It's really important also for me to be listening to you. I appreciate you want to hear from me, and I'm happy to discuss aspects of the bill that I've been promoting in Parliament these past several months, which is a really important piece of legislation. But I think I just wanted to underscore at the outset, your ideas and input are also critical to me in terms of helping to perfect what I think is already a good bill, but not a perfect bill in terms of what can be done to improve it and make it even stronger.
Okay.
And we'll see.
It's not a perfect bill, but it's a good bill. So they're already setting this up to, revising it in committee. But with the help of SaveFreeSpeech.ca, we're just going to tell them to throw the whole thing out. Okay.
To use that.
I've made a tweet about this, but essentially, anything that's good. Anything that they deem is good in Bill C-63 is already redundant. They say we're going to stop things like child pornography. That's already illegal. That's already flagged by big tech platforms. Big tech already has a system to flag content and take down content quickly. So anything on Bill C-63 that is a positive thing of, we want to take down harmful content. Big tech already does that. We want to take down illegal content. That stuff's already illegal. That stuff is already, managed and targeted by law enforcement. So any of the sort of virtue of why we need to do something, it's already taken care of for the most part by big tech or our existing legal system. So it's very redundant. Any of the good things about Bill C-63 are completely redundant. There's nothing actually good and productive in this bill whatsoever. Other than a lot of the rhetoric around, there's a lot of rhetoric around it, right? That says we're going to protect kids. It's all hot air.
In terms of just sort of at the outset, I'm just going to pour myself a bit of water.
Yeah, you're going to need that, bud. You're going to need some water to get through this train wreck. I need to moisten my. I need to drink some water before I spew all of this bullshit. It really helps. Let's do a land acknowledgement.
Sort of setting up sort of where things are at. And I appreciate many people in this room are a lot younger than me. I am at the tender age of 52. I've got the bald spot back here to prove it. But it's a different world that many of you have grown up in compared to the world that I grew up in. And I appreciate that world comes with challenges.
I think he's losing his hair because he's so stressed because he's lying all the time. That's my theory on why he has a bald spot. Anyway.
Appreciate, as a father raising two young boys, the challenges that every young person faces in terms of adjusting, sort of finding their voice and sort of coming to terms and sort of as they embrace adulthood. And that's...
Quick question, Arif. Do you think kids spending 7 hours a day on a screen is going to help your child develop properly? Because throughout this entire conversation on Bill C-63, not once have I seen a Liberal Party member, Arif Virani, anybody advocating for the bill, saying that, hey, maybe we should spend less time online. That's never something in the conversation. It's always just like, well, we spend 8 to 10 hours a day on the internet. Nothing we can do about that. So we better get the government to babysit us while we do that. Because this is, I bring this up because if you're a parent, you are concerned about how much time kids are spending online and what they might be looking at online. But no, like it's a genuine concern. It's a genuine concern. But with this bill, no one is saying, hey, maybe kids should be online less. That's never a part of the conversation, which I think is the actual, the real sort of like a genuine talking point, a genuine sentiment that I think a lot of parents have that I think should be addressed. And back to my campaign in 2019, I actually had that as my own sort of policy, because when you run for the PPC, you can kind of make up your own policy if you want. Say, hey, this is what I would do if I was in power. And I talked about how I would put a lot of money into researching the effect of devices and internet on young people. Probably adults too, but also young people. Like doing the research to say, hey, are these like cigarettes? Are giving smartphones to kids kind of like giving cigarettes to kids? Should we look into this? And I'm sure you would find, because I made the joke of like, hey, I'm a grown man and I'm addicted to my phone. I said that in a debate and everybody laughed. And I'm like, it's actually not that funny because we're giving devices to children and there's, they're spending more of their waking hours looking at a screen than living in reality and like kicking a soccer ball around and just kind of like using their flesh vehicle. No, they're just in the device. So again, like that's a genuine concern that parents have. No one talking about Bill C-63 is addressing this at all. It's just a bunch of fear mongering about other stuff. It's just taken for granted. Well, kids spend over 7 hours a day online. That means the government's got to babysit them. Cool. Great North Roofer says, my boys are teens and both don't have cell phones. Based? This is like, I always ask a parent or a teacher when I meet them, what's your policy? What's the protocol for devices? What are we doing with these devices and kids? Because I've seen, parents who I know and, the kid will be there and they're young and they're just like swiping away on the iPad. And I'm like, I just get this feeling of like, I feel like there should be more. I don't know if that's going to be good for a toddler, but, Cool Papa J Magic says, are you running for office of some kind, Greg Wycliffe? That would be so cool. We need good folks like you to speak for us on the government level. I ran in 2019. At this point, I'm not going to be running in the immediate future. I could in the future. Right now, I want to focus on the culture. I want to focus on content. I'm producing a documentary right now to expose the censorship industry, to expose things that are happening in this country. And I think a lot of work needs to be done. So I'm focusing my efforts on that right now because I think that's kind of the best place to put my efforts to kind of sway the cultural conversation. I think getting out there and being a politician and running is very important. Shout outs to all the people who are running for the PPC because I really feel that is sort of like, you're knocking doors, you're starting conversations, you're getting involved in the community. It's like one of the best things you can do to get the word out there, to let people know, hey, like-minded people like you are out there. We're here. We have a professional organization, the PPC. And I think that's a really good stepping stone to red pill people and to get them into our world of really finding out what's going on and knowing that there's just like normal, like-minded Canadians who are really concerned about what's going on. But that being said, if you want to help me produce bigger and better content, then go to givesendgo.com/savefreespeech. Okay. How much is free speech worth to you? Is it worth the price of a coffee or buying me lunch? Because, you can help save free speech, stop this bill just for a small donation like that. They add up, guys. They add up. Anyway, let's get back into this reaction. Oops.
a trepidous sort of route where any person sort of, I think 10 to 25-ish, anywhere they are in the world, whatever era we're talking about. But this is a very specific time that we're in and a specific moment that we're in. I think that's really important to underscore. And what I want to also emphasize is that the safety concerns that have been expressed to me are safety concerns that I see, that I hear about, but also ones that I am personally sort of privy to. And what do I mean by that? I mean that I cannot divorce my work on this bill from sort of who I am and what I represent.
So you can see right now he's taken a moment to like slow down, to breathe. He needs to get emotional. He needs to sell this. So much of, I mean, a lot of the, you know, whatever you want to call it, left-wing tyranny, a lot of the bullshit that they use to take our rights away, it hinges on this emotional argument of safety. And Bill C-63 is no different. So you can see he's kind of getting a bit emotional because he's about to tell us how much of a victim he is because of the color of his skin, even though he has the salary of a, you know, member of parliament, probably lives in the nice area of Parkdale High Park, not the crappy area of Parkdale High Park, because there is a very huge distinction of income in that riding. It's actually very interesting. Because you have you know a poorer population that genuinely wants socialism, and then you have like super rich people who are like champagne socialists. So anyway, it's quite interesting. But let's get ready. Let's hear about how much of a victim and how sad it is, how sad it is, and how hard it is to be Arif Virani.
So yes, I'm a parliamentarian. Yes, I'm a lawyer. It's good to have an attorney general that's a lawyer. But I'm also an individual who came here as a refugee from Uganda in 1972. I'm also a Muslim racialized man.
Racialized.
I'm raising two Muslim racialized boys. And I think in terms of when we embrace...
What does that mean, racialized? They're racialized. You know, I could see, this is going to be a crude example, but I could see if there's like, you know, an interracial marriage. It's like they got racialized. You know, they got racialized. But you know, if you're like a Muslim couple and you have a Muslim child, are they racialized? Aren't they just Muslim? What does that mean? What does that mean? They're racialized. Anyway, let's continue.
Online safety, we have to understand sort of what people are facing in terms of where they are, how they look, what they represent, what they're trying to articulate. And that looks different for somebody who's Indigenous. It looks different for somebody who's LGBTQ. It looks different for someone who's Black, for somebody who's racialized, for somebody who's a religious minority.
This is a stale talking point, but it's just so ironic how it's like everyone is so different. Everyone has totally a different perspective. And like, that's a crucial thing, you guys. It's so important to recognize how different everybody is. And anyway, it's really leading up to the, you know, people are bigger victims or people are targeted for how they look like, blah, blah, blah. But anyway.
Because there's a lot going on online, and a lot of it is cloaked under an anonymity that emboldens people to really challenge other people's safety. And I think a lot of
Pardon? Sorry. So hold up. Pardon. Boomer alert. Boomer alert. I mean boomer in a loving way. I mean boomer as in like, here's somebody who doesn't understand how the internet really works and what the internet is. Let's hear that again.
We have to understand sort of what people are facing in terms of where they are, how they look, what they represent, what they're trying to articulate. And that looks different for somebody who's Indigenous. It looks different for somebody who's LGBTQ. It looks different for someone who's Black, for somebody who's racialized, for somebody who's a religious minority. Because there's a lot going on online, and a lot of it is cloaked under an anonymity.
Yeah, that's what the internet is. There's a lot that goes on the internet, and a lot of it is cloaked in anonymity. Okay. Welcome to the internet.
That emboldens people to really challenge other people's safety.
It's okay. So it's the internet though. So it kind of just happens online. So it's like it challenges people's safety. That's a good one. What does that mean, Arif? Something challenges challenges your safety? Don't you mean challenges like you feeling it challenges your sense of feeling absolutely comfortable, like everything is totally fine? So it sort of disturbs what? It disturbs your worldview? It challenges your safety. Challenges your safety. This guy should have drank more water before giving this presentation. I'm thinking bullshit. I'm thinking he didn't have notes for this. Okay, so let's see. We still got 25 more minutes of this struggle session of him pulling stuff out of his ass. Don't worry, there's no nudity, but there is going to be some graphic moments where Arif Virani is pulling obscene things from his backside. But let's continue.
And I think a lot of you in this room can understand what I'm speaking about. But the online world has become increasingly unsafe. And I want to pause for...
It's unsafe! Don't go online! Don't pick up your phone! It's not safe, guys! It's the internet! The only thing that's unsafe about the internet are, I don't know, the scammers, the Jeets who are scamming people, all the phishing things. Like, the most dangerous place on your internet is probably your inbox. It's probably, when someone's, trying to scam you out of money or out of your personal data. Maybe it's a little unsafe there. But what he's about to go into is hilarious. It's like, don't open your phone. You're going to find something that's offensive and offend you. Yeah, that's why I'm going on. That's why I'm going on the internet. I want to see something interesting. I want to see something offensive. I want to be entertained. Hello?
A moment to reflect on. If you guys, I hope there are some nerds in the room. I presume there's a few who've been following sort of this legislation closely. But when I tabled it, it was either the 26th or the 27th of February. And I was at a podium like this, and I was surrounded by a lot of fellow parliamentarians. But also I was flanked by a few.
Here comes the sob story. He's going to weaponize the sob story that he used when he first tabled this bill.
Different people. And one of the persons I was flanked by was a woman named Elise Beauvais. You don't need to know her name, but I hope you do remember her name. But Elise Beauvais is a black woman from Montreal, a francophone, who dared to enter the fray of discussions about systemic racism and anti-black racism in the...
Listen to that verbiage. She dared to enter the fray of talking about racism on the internet. Like, that's so dramatic. She went on Reddit, okay? She went on Reddit. She went on Twitter and she tweeted, she dared to go into the fray of online discourse. Like, man, you're really making me seem like every Twitter warrior who goes on and makes a tweet is some valiant, brave, revolutionary commenter. They entered the fray. No, you tweeted. You were taking a dump and you posted something on the internet. I entered the fray. That's so funny.
Wake of George Floyd. And what Elise Beauvais faced was intense backlash. So much so that Elise Beauvais sort of resiled from that discussion.
Wow. She got ratioed. Okay. So she posted on the internet. People responded.
Because she couldn't handle it. She resiled from communicating with anyone, physically or online. Resiled into herself, and it affected her anxiety levels, her trauma levels, depression, you name it. And I raised that.
It affected her trauma levels. Trauma levels. We might need it. Lee, we might need a new, do I have the image here? Oh, come on. Oh, crap. Oh, yeah. No, I have it here. We need another graphic like this for trauma levels. What's your trauma level at? My trauma levels are rising. It's so traumatic that I can identify the exact level of trauma that I'm going through. No, but this graphic is the hate, how hateful something is. Because essentially, Bill C-63, if you guys don't know, they want to make detestation illegal. Like it's criminal hate speech to detest something in speech. So they're like, no. You can still disdain something. You can still dislike something. You can still humiliate something, but you can't detest it though. You can't vilify it. That's the line in the sand. Any questions? Yeah, I have a question. How the fuck do you determine that? And we have We have an image like this as a joke, of course, but it's terrifying because this is supposed to be the law. This is what they want to put into law. And you think that you think a room of lawyers can determine the difference between disdain and detest, humiliate and vilify? The definition of detestation is intense dislike. This bill is absurd. It's totally absurd. Anyway, we might need a trauma levels graphic like this, Lee, because, people's trauma levels need to be addressed. My trauma levels are rising right now. Oh, God. I got ratioed on Twitter. This is the worst day of my life. Someone told me to kill myself. Oh. Yeah, welcome to the internet. I can't imagine, as someone who's received hate online before, I can't imagine like having to put my life on hold every time I get a hateful comment. It just sounds exhausting to take that so seriously. But Lee Stewie says they're using Supreme Court case precedent. Yeah. Hate that they're doing that. And I'm gonna hopefully interview Bruce Party about this, because he kind of mentioned this in a Twitter space when I hopped in with him, and he was saying like, he kind of implied, Supreme Court, it's from the Supreme Court. So, and it's like, okay, but what if the Supreme Court is wrong on this? Is the Supreme Court ever wrong? I feel like they kind of got this wrong. I feel like they really kind of weren't really thinking properly to set such a precedent that detestation and vilification should be criminal speech, because that's super, super broad. But the Supreme Court said it. Okay. I don't care. I don't know. No offense to the Supreme Court. I don't know if you guys have the best track record under Justin Trudeau, especially. And I mean, you wear these weird Santa outfits, kind of weird Santa outfits, to be honest. Anyway, let's keep it going here.
Because I feel like there's a lot of Elise Beauvays out there that are not able to find their voice. And I raise that because people talk to me a lot about this legislation and about people's voices, and what are you doing to protect free expression and freedom of speech, particularly online. And I'm going to address this at length a bit later on in my comments, but what I'd say just at the outset is that I think what we need to ensure that we all understand is that so much of discourse in civic debate, in civic society right now, is, notwithstanding the fact I'm here in front of you at a microphone, and I'm pleased to be here in person, it takes place online, on our phones, on our computers, etc. And if people are impeded from penetrating that virtual town square, that virtual public space, then their expressive rights are being limited.
This is so ironic, man. This is so ironic. So what he's doing here is he's implying that because hateful people exist, because there's anonymous accounts saying hateful things online, to this example of this black woman who got reviled from even commenting, because that hate exists, people can't participate in free speech. Because people are getting offended, we can't have free speech. That's what he's saying. Because people are offended, because there's these oversensitive people who are afraid of criticism or afraid of pushback or afraid of anonymous Twitter trolls, that's why we can't have free speech. It's only when we silence all of these Twitter trolls and stop all the hate, that's the only way we can have free speech. This is such a like Orwellian double speak, like inversion of the truth and reality. He's saying, no. By silencing hate, we are going to uphold democracy and free speech. When in reality, you are stopping free speech. You are killing the free speech by saying this is hate. We need to stop this free speech to allow free speech. It's evil. I would call this villainous. I think slickly telling this lie, this inversion of the truth, is an evil thing to do. I think that this is like a Gotham City villain. This type of lying of like, no, you see, we're going to save free speech by silencing the hate, because people can only talk once other people have been silenced. That's pretty well what he's saying. People can only have free speech if the hateful people are silent. And we're going to determine who's hateful. And we're going to determine what's bad. And that's going to help us have a more freedom of speech. It's totally insane, guys. Totally insane.
I'd also want to point out that there is a great deal of information that is happening online and that is affecting young people. And the statistics really bear this out. The statistics are that a quarter of teens experience cyberbullying, that the number of hate crimes reported.
A quarter of teens experience cyberbullying. I love this fact because, you know, when they were asked that question in a survey, it's like, was it a bad thing? You know what I mean? I've been cyberbullied on TikTok. I've had children make fun. Oh, look at this old man. Wow, this bro thought he did something. Hundreds of likes making fun of me. I'm not mad. I think it's funny because it's the internet. I understand that because it's, you know, more anonymized. It's more like anonymous in terms of the comments. This is part of the fun of the internet. It's sure, it's part of the terrifying part of posting content and posting your face out there. You might get roasted in the comments. That's just the way it is. That's part of the game. Okay? You might get bullied. You might get cyberbullied. Okay? And, you know, you could make the argument that the Me Too movement, that these women like trying to call out sexual predators or Harvey Weinstein, well, that's cyberbullying, Arif. All these people harassing Harvey Weinstein for something he did in the past. Why do they keep cyberbullying him? This is such a horrible thing, right? We need to stop the cyberbullying. You see what I mean? Like sometimes the mob mentality that manifests on the internet isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes it's actually like the social policing playing out. You know what I mean? The social policing as in if somebody acts a fool, if somebody acts like an asshole or a creep or whatever, and then people cyberbully them and kind of, what's the word? Kind of condemn them for their actions or for what they said. This is sort of like the normal social order playing out where human beings react to something as a group because they all agree that they did not like that thing. So this whole thing of trying to control bullying is just such a mess because bullying is a human, it's like part of human nature. There's this book, Arif, that maybe you should read. It's called The Lord of the Flies. Very, very influential book. Sometimes I read it in English class. And it speaks to this idea of human nature and how it's this thing that can kind of descend into chaos when it's not sort of, having some sort of natural order to things. And this idea that you're going to like stop human nature, you're going to stop people from hatred, you're going to stop people from feeling that human emotion, you're going to stop people from bullying. It's insane. It's evil. It's something that a tyrant would do. Not something that a reasonable, realistic person would do. It's something that a power-hungry politician would do. But anyway, let's continue on with your bullshit presentation.
Reported by police in Canada has increased by 83% since 2019. The Toronto Police here in our city have reported that they've experienced a 130% increase in hate-related calls.
I would love to know what classifies a hate-related call. And I think that sort of the irony of all these stats he's listing off is, you know, how popular of a term was hate speech 10 years ago? How popular of a term was hate crimes 10 years ago? I can assure you people probably hardly even talked about it that much compared to now. Like they're memeing it into existence. They're trying to make it more and more prevalent, more and more real. It's like casting a spell, you know, it's like casting a spell of the unvaccinated are evil. You know, we need to stop the hate speech, the hate crimes that are happening. Ooh, see hate crimes. Yep. This is the safety.
2022, 71% of young Canadians reported seeing online hate content in the previous 12 months, which is well above the national average. 1 in 8 people.
Once again, like hate content, how are they categorizing this? Is hate content always bad? I can't bring it up right now, but you know, if you were unvaccinated in Canada in 2021, you were hated. early 2022 especially, you were hated. There were popular, what's the infamous one? The Toronto Star front page. I don't care if they die. I'm sick of these people. All these comments on the front page of a newspaper. This is a group that was totally hated, totally vilified by the Prime Minister himself. Are you including that in your little assessment of hate content on the internet? And here's the thing. I'm totally fine with, that phenomenon was really disturbing because it was like really, who knows what that was going towards. But my point is like trying to just say we're going to stop hate on the internet is insane, because who defines what hatred is? I really doubt he would include the hatred of unvaccinated Canadians. That was a very real thing in recent history.
People saw online content daily that could incite hate or violence.
And for that matter, Truth and Reconciliation Day, the burning of churches, the tearing down of Sir John A. Macdonald statues. What about that hate, Arif? What about that hate? I mean, I would make the argument that the motion that was passed in the Parliament to say that residential schools are genocide, I would say that has a sort of implication of hate. It implies that our history, I mean, should you like somebody that's genocidal? No, you'd probably hate somebody who's genocidal. So you're implying that Canadian history is inherently genocidal, or that Catholic residential schools are inherently genocidal, i.e. you should hate them, right? But no. This is a very specific definition of hate that he gets to define, that the Liberal government wants to define, that they're going to control. It's, yeah.
And I raise this because it's something that just came up earlier this morning. I was speaking at another group about this very same idea. And it's about, given that statistical path, I feel it's incumbent upon legislators like me, particularly people with roles like me as Minister of Justice, to take action. And people said, Arif, it's really helpful when you sort of give us illustrative examples. So I'll go back to my youth. So my youth was.
Okay, I'm sorry. Before we get into this bullshit story, this is just such bullshit. This whole like emotion. I thought I had to take action. I knew I had to do something when I saw these trends. This is total bullshit. Bill C-36. This was tabled in 2021. They've already been trying to pass hate speech laws. It was Bill C-36. I've made videos about it years back. And they were doing the same thing. They were trying to control speech online under the guise of protecting people from hate speech. Arif Virani was not involved. And now they've just repackaged Bill C-63, and Arif happens to be the Attorney General, right? Wait, am I getting that right? Attorney General? Justice Minister? I knew I had to do something. No, this government was already trying to push through hate speech laws, and now you're just taking up that banner to try and push it through. No, I saw the trends, guys. I saw the trends, and I thought, I need to do something. It's just such baloney. This guy.
Smartphone. There was one phone in our house. It was a dial phone like this. For those of you that remember what those look like, I've got one colleague who does that.
By the way, if you're tuning in and you want to help save free speech in Canada, please go to givesendgo.com/savefreespeech. We're making a documentary. Award-winning filmmaker. This movie is going to be on Amazon Video. It's going to be distributed internationally. We're doing all types of interviews of people who have been silenced, having their characters smeared by the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. They're the same people who are behind Bill C-63 as well. We're going to expose them with this documentary. Go to givesendgo.com/savefreespeech. Thank you so much for the donations. Yeah. Anyway, let's get back into it. Whoop.
That's good. But I remember, I've got a sister who's 3 years and 3 months older than me. I remember my dad getting very angry when people would call our house after 9 or 9:30 or 10 o'clock to speak to my sister. It was always boys wanting to speak to my sister. He was being a protective dad. I'm not the father of a daughter. I'm the father of 2 boys. But I think any dad would probably react in the same way. But I raise this both partly flippantly, but also partly just to point out that we don't generally tolerate people who would show up at our houses, show up at the playground, or show up on the phone at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock at night, particularly if they're wanting to chat about things that maybe might be harmful to our children. And yet that's exactly what's happening online all of the time. And we need...
Bro's seriously comparing IRL to the internet, And I think, and this the ridiculous irony of his, or like not irony, but the absurdity of his example is that the internet doesn't come to you. Okay. The internet does not come to you. You need to open the internet. You need to go on a device and open the internet. You need to open it. You need to actively go inside and look at it and go inside of the internet. Okay. That's how you do it. He's talking about people showing up at your door, calling you on your phone. Yeah, that's not how the internet works. The internet doesn't call and say like, "Hey, look at these hateful comments." You know? I mean, I guess you could make the argument with notifications that there maybe he's going to go there. Let's see.
Need to take action to prevent that in terms of protecting young people in particular.
I mean, it is hilarious, just like the imagery of like, I don't know what like a cartoon character of the internet would look like, but like the internet's knocking on your door. "I'm here to cause harm to your children." Oh no, it's the internet. Arif Virani, save us. "Don't worry, Canadians. I have Bill C-63. The internet's not going to harm you again." Yay. Thank you, Arif. Totally retarded. The internet, it's going to come eat your children. Ah. When in reality, though, it is pedophiles and sexual predators. That is a real thing. That is coming after your children. And they're smart. They're tactful. They use the internet in a tactful way to sort of entrap and draw in children. The problem is Bill C-63 doesn't address any of this stuff. It doesn't address any of the kind of private conversations that people might have on different apps or whatever. It doesn't touch any of that whatsoever. So anytime he brings up, oh, sexploitation, pedophiles online. Yeah, your bill doesn't do anything to stop this. So what are you talking about? Why do you keep lying to people, Arif? Why are you giving them the impression that Bill C-63 is going to address this problem of pedophiles entrapping kids online when this bill would not do anything for that? The only thing it's going to do is like, hey, we took down child sexploitation content. Well, that kid already got sexploited and it already got uploaded to the internet. So it's kind of fucking late. It's kind of too late to stop that from happening, isn't it? So if you actually want to solve the root of the problem, your bill does nothing. So it's actually very disgusting and detestable, Arif, that you use these examples of kids being entrapped by pedophiles on the internet as a reason to pass Bill C-63 when it would not do anything to prevent that. You're using these tragic stories of kids who have been victims of these sick, monstrous pedophiles to push your legislation that wants to censor the internet. You actually have no interest in protecting children. And some lawyers have actually made the argument that this bill might actually help insulate pedophiles and people posting child porn from consequences. It would help give them a buffer if they're getting caught. It would help them, like, burn their hard drives before they get found out. Or maybe they're doing something shady in public, and then that content gets taken down as harmful. So then the evidence incriminating a pedophile is now no longer on the internet. It's harder to find because it got taken down for harmful content. Evidence of a pedophile doing detestable things or creepy things in public is now removed because it's harmful content. We've seen this Liberal Party of Canada. They approve of the Pride Parade. They approve of the gender ideology taught in schools. What do you think kids are going to do after seeing that in schools when they go home and go on the internet? What do you think they're going to look up? This Liberal Party clearly does not give a fuck about protecting children from sexual exploitation if they are rubber stamping and co-signing a Pride Parade where there's naked men dancing around with a Bugs Bunny mask in front of children. Fuck off with this argument that Bill C-63 protects kids from sexual exploitation. Blow it out your ass. It's total bullshit. Anybody buying into this, you're naive. I have some snow to sell you. I have some snow to sell you this February if you think Bill C-63 is going to protect kids online.
But I'd also say to you that it's not just about protecting my kids. And my kids are literally at that stage where they're 10 and 13, and the 10-year-old isn't at the stage at all, where the 13-year-old is graduating from a brutal flip phone to he wants a smartphone. My wife and I debated. He's just starting grade 9, and he's got a smartphone. He's allowed to have one app on it, so he had to choose his app. Apparently, Snapchat is the way to go in grade 9 at his high school. But I also can't divorce the fact that he's not just a boy trying to become a young man, but he's also a boy with a different name. He's a boy that has the same skin color as me. He's a boy that is Muslim. And what he's going to face is different than what some other people might face. And I raise that because it's not just my children's reality that informs how I approach this legislation, but it's Canada's reality. And Canada's reality is, unfortunately, just today, I've had lots of engagements as a Minister of Justice, including with international counterparts, including at things like the G7. And it really troubles me that Canada leads the G7 in a statistic that I don't want to lead in. Like, I want to lead in all these great economic indicators and democratic governance indicators. We lead the G7 in deaths due to Islamophobia.
Deaths due to Islamophobia. What does that mean? How do you even quantify that? Deaths due to Islamophobia? Deaths due to racism? Deaths due to homophobia? Like, I'm telling you, somebody's got to expose this whole stat industry, this whole study industry. There's this whole system where people make these studies to prove things, and it's just creating political footballs for politicians. That's all. Am I crazy, or is this all that these stat study companies do? Is they just craft a study to make a bunch of bullshit statistics for politicians like Arif Virani to kind of push around all of these weird talking points.
Since 2017. That's pretty startling, right? 11 people have been cut down because of their faith in this country, and that faith was Islam. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the Quebec mosque shooter, whose name I will not repeat, in 2017, who killed 6 individuals. And I'm talking about the person who decided to take a car and drive into a family, killing 4 and orphaning 1.
I mean, did we ever hear the actual background of this person? I mean, I'm not going to lie, that was horrific. That happened. This guy ran over a whole Muslim family in London, Ontario. But I feel like the sort of reporting on that was very, very scarce in terms of what was actually going on. So yeah, once again, it just feels like a lot of, I mean, in terms of the mosque shooter, obviously I disavow that. I disavow violence of all kinds, but, yeah, I mean, I don't know that one in London though. I don't know if anyone's got the link of more of the research on that whole incident. I would love to know.
Right, that's the Afzal family in London. I don't want to lead in that statistic, and the reason I raise that statistic is because it's informative for me, it's motivating for me, but it also lays clear a patent truth.
It's also worth mentioning during the trucker convoy in Manitoba, there was an Antifa guy who drove a car into a crowd of protesters, like pro-freedom, anti-mandate protesters. One of them went to the hospital. Drove a car into a protesting demonstration. No one really talks about that. I'm sure Arif never talks about that. No one ever talks about how a car was driven into a crowd of convoy protesters. That is definitely a terror attack. It's doing violence to advocate for your political beliefs. So, yeah. Once again, it's just hard to take any of this sob story seriously when it's you're clearly just using this for a political football. You're going to focus on this violence, not that violence. You're going to focus on this hate, not that hate. Yeah.
Right, and people like to say, well, Virani, you're just sort of espousing. Is that just theoretical? Because I often say online radicalization leads to real-world violence. In those 2 cases, and I hope,
I always say online radicalization leads to real-world violence. Okay, you always say that. But
again, the type A folks in this room follow those 2 cases. Both instances, the accused persons who have now been convicted admitted on the stand under cross-examination that they were radicalized online. So it's not theoretical. It costs lives, including in this country.
Oof.
And no.
Oof. I'm not gonna lie. If that's true, that's a pretty good talking point for him, for his side. It's a pretty good talking point. If he's got that stat, if they admitted this on the stand that they were radicalized online, it's a pretty good talking point for him. Shit. We're gonna have to workshop.
We haven't had a Pittsburgh Tree of Life synagogue attack, and no, we haven't had an Orlando LGBTQ bar attack where 49 people were killed in this country.
Quick question, Arif. How many churches got burnt down? Is that in your little? Is that included in your study or what? Jennifer Francis says a 13-year-old boy unalived himself during lockdown in Victoria. Yeah, great point. How about the destructive nature of lockdowns, or the destructive nature of the how the unvaccinated were treated? Yeah, it just goes on and on. It just goes on and on. Like, this is a power grab. We know this is a power grab. It's all a bunch of bullshit, but he does bring some strong talking points to the table with this one, not gonna lie. Because there's a lot of bullshit, but this one's actually like not as easy to just kind of like throw aside.
But I'll be damned if I'm going to stand by and sort of watch it happen. So it's not just about protecting Muslims, it's about protecting lots of vulnerable people.
Oh, here's another one. What about the Danforth shooting? What about the Danforth shooting when the shooter, somebody who he was related to, had a huge stockpile of carfentanil, and apparently one of them or both of them went to a local mosque that they say was like quite radical as well. But of course, again, we don't care about that. We don't care that doesn't matter to Arif. That's not important to Arif. That's not something that he focuses on. That type of hate is not something that he really gives a shit about. So, yeah.
This country. The other component that I feel compelled to speak about is this idea that people have mentioned to me, and I'm sort of jumping around my notes here a little bit, but they've said to me that, Arif, you've got a really impressive piece of legislation, and it is impressive, and it was worked on a long time. It's not sort of my handiwork on the back of a napkin. It's a 4.5-year process. And that piece of legislation addresses things such as content that needs to be taken down immediately. That's child sex abuse material and revenge porn. It addresses content where we've got to moderate the risk. So that's incitements to incitements to violence and terrorism. That is fomenting hatred. That is content that would be used to bully a child, or content that would be used to cause a child self-harm.
That's content that he wants taken down within 24 hours from big tech. Content that bullies a child. That's so broad, man. That's so crazy broad. So any meme about fat people, any meme about making fun of virtually anything that could apply to a child. No, don't worry. We're going to define what cyberbullying is. It's like, just fuck off. Like, this stuff is so broad. It would be insane to have bureaucrats determine this stuff for us.
But people have said to me, Arif, I feel like we've got this momentum behind the bill, but I'm not sure about all of the bill. Why can't we just sort of bifurcate it a little bit? Let's just deal with the kids part, because that's easy. Like, everyone wants to protect their kids. And maybe, that hate stuff, maybe we should just sort of pause for a second on the hate stuff. And what I say to people, and then they say to me, well, this is how we should do it. We should actually separate out the bill.
Just to reiterate, the whole bill sucks. There's nothing good in the bill. I already covered this. Anything that's actually good in the bill is totally redundant. There's nothing good in the bill. But anyway, continue.
And my response to that is as follows. Fundamentally, when I take an oath of office as the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada...
Just so much fucking bullshit. This guy... My response to this is as follows. As an Attorney General of Canada, yeah.
It is to keep Canadians safe.
Mm.
And I believe in keeping all Canadians safe.
Yeah, okay. Except for... Yeah, okay.
It's the first point. The second point is that when we look at harms that people are exposed to, we've looked at harms comprehensively. There are all types of different harms. It is not just child sex predators, of which there are many, unfortunately, but there are other types of harms that people are exposed to. And this bill is meant to address all of them. This bill is also meant to address what we're seeing. I'm here at the campus of TMU. It would be indifferent if I was on
the... Notice how he's not answering the question. hey, should we separate this bill? Isn't some of this completely absurd? And he's just like, we're tracking the harms.
Campus at York or at U of T or any other campus around this country, we have seen, sometimes because of geopolitical events, sometimes because of domestic events, we've seen increasing polarization and division, right? And what we've seen is that we need to ensure that in those times that dialogue occurs, but hatred does not. And hatred is on the rise. And the stats that I read to you demonstrate that hatred is on the rise.
There it is. There it is, folks. We need to make sure that dialogue occurs, but hatred does not. This is just like this is like crazy communist dialogue. I just want to know what the actual definition of dialogue is. I've never looked it up, so let's take a quick peek. Computer, define dialogue, please. Conversation between two or more people as a feature of a book, play, or movie. Take part in a conversation or discussion to resolve a problem. Okay, let's have some dialogue. Let's have some dialogue about Israel-Palestine, Arif. We want to make sure dialogue happens, but no hate happens. Let's have some dialogue about Israel-Palestine or Ukraine-Russia. And let's not have anyone hate each other. Good luck. This kind of just goes right to the point of why this is totally absurd. You want to have dialogue. And it's funny that dialogue actually comes from the noun refers to dialogue in a book, movie, or play. Stories and narratives thrive on conflict. Characters will hate things. They'll hate other people. So it's like, this is just a terrible word to use. We need to make sure dialogue happens, but there's no hate. Here's a free lesson. Here's a free lesson, Mr. Arif. You should have used like debate or something. That we should have debate without hate. Oh, fuck. I just gave him I just gave him like a fucking bumper sticker. Fuck. You can't hate. You can't debate without hate, Arif. You can't debate without some hate. But that sort of thing is just, I'm going to be so pissed if he ends up using that. Holy shit. All right, let's continue. All right, let's continue.
But I'd also say to you,
did I just give my enemy a bumper sticker? Fuck, dude.
and I see, different people with different backgrounds, like TMU looks exactly like Toronto does, and that's why I love the city. But I'd also ask you to think about
TMU, formerly Ryerson. Rest in peace to Egerton Ryerson's legacy, taken down by angry Indigenous people because they hate white Canadian history, pretty much.
Those who say, just separate the bill, Arif, because let's just protect just those young people. I say to you, okay, let's think about the young people, right? Think about my kids, think about your kids, your nieces, your nephews, your grandchildren. But now let's think about what it looks like for them online if it's a young girl online as opposed to a young boy. Now let's add a few layers. Let's think about if that's a young racialized girl. So now we've got a young black girl online. Now let's think about maybe she's of Somali origin and maybe she's Muslim like me. So now we've got a young black Somali Muslim in a hijab.
Just bringing out well, what if they're like the most, what if they're in a wheelchair too? You should have them in a wheelchair too, Arif. What if they're a young Somali Muslim girl in a niqab who's a lesbian in a wheelchair and she's blind and deaf? How many more do you want? Come on, let's go. Let's up the ante here, Arif.
If you think all she's facing is sort of eating disorder issues about her body image, I just think you're wrong. In fact, I know you're wrong because I know that the vitriol that circulates online is also circulating with young people, and they are exposed to hatred, and they are exposed to material that is being fomented towards them and targeting them.
This is such a wet dream for helicopter parents. I'm just thinking. Imagine just consider how absurd this sort of goal is. It's like, hey, I want to protect my kid, so I'm going to put bubble wrap all over all the walls. I'm going to wrap mattresses around everything to make sure they don't hurt themselves ever and they don't fall ever. That's essentially what he's saying. We're going to make sure that there's no hate on the internet and your child is never offended and they're never exposed to anything bad ever. That's what I'm going to do. Totally unrealistic. Are you just here to take away my rights, sir? No. We're going to make sure that your kid never trip, they never fall, they're never exposed to hatred, they're never exposed to any disagreement or anything that might hurt their feelings. Is this even good for a child to completely insulate them from the real world, to completely insulate them from anything that they might find harmful? I mean, like, where is the character building part? Where is the part where you interact with people who you disagree with and you to the point where you might hate each other on a disagreement? It doesn't have to be on the Israel-Palestine thing. Maybe you hate each other because somebody likes the Beatles and the other person doesn't. Somebody likes this movie and the other person doesn't. And maybe that descends into a flame war, as the old school term goes, when you're like arguing with each other online. But it's what he's talking about is such a wet dream for helicopter parents who want to say, like, I want to protect my kid from everything. Make sure that they don't trip, they don't fall, they're not exposed to anything harmful or hateful on the internet. What an absurd goal to have. It's the internet, guys. It's filled with all sorts of insanity. That's the whole point of it. But no, the government, the Canadian government, is going to make sure that your child, never sees anything weird on the internet. Never. It's not going to happen. Like, based on how absurd that is, I bet that, and I don't want this to happen because we were going to save free speech. We're going to stop Bill C-63. Go to savefreespeech.ca. But I bet if this bill were to pass as is, big tech would just bail. I think big tech would just bail out of Canada and say, it's not even worth the trouble. You guys are cooked. You're only 40 million. You know, we got 5-10 times your population, your market base in other countries. It's not even worth our time. It's not even worth the financial risk. Because if you don't know, there will be a huge financial risk for big tech platforms with Bill C-63 if big tech doesn't obey whatever our digital commission says. If the digital commission says, oh, this is bullying a child online, this meme about fat people is bullying a child online, we're the digital commissars of Canada. Facebook, if you don't take it down, we're going to fine you millions of dollars. We're going to fine you, Facebook, for millions of dollars. There could be hundreds of applications for this happening every single day to Facebook. They could get potentially, like, imagine getting 100 inquiries a day that you might get fined millions of dollars for. Yeah, I think big tech will probably just leave the country. They already did that with the news sharing with Bill C-18. Why? Because these legislators suck, okay? Because this Liberal Party, these bureaucrats in Canada are terrible at their job. They're terrible at writing legislation to the point where professional, massive, international big tech companies are calling them out on their bluff. And they're just like, this is not even tenable for us. So we're just leaving the country because you're so bad at writing legislation. And I feel Bill C-63, based on this absurd dream that Arif Virani says that we're going to protect your kid from anything harmful online. Based on that, yeah, I'm thinking that they might just nuke the internet, or at least nuke big tech from even existing in Canada if this were to go through.
And what I would say to you is that we all need to think about those examples, because I think in my job is protecting Canadians, protecting those who are victimized online. I'm not going to cherry pick which victims. I'm not going to hang out to dry. I'm not going to focus only on child sex predator victims and hang out to dry the LGBTQ plus community, hang out to dry Indigenous people, hang out to dry Black Canadians, Muslim Canadians, Jewish Canadians, you name it. My job is to try and protect to the best of my ability all Canadians. But I'd also say to you, and I find this very troubling, is that because I thought we learned more coming out of COVID.
Once again, the absurdity there is crazy. How do you protect Jewish and Palestinian Canadians at the same time? Like how do you police the content? Because, sorry, you're going to have Jewish Canadians complaining about the Palestinian protesters and their posts, and you're going to have Palestinian Canadians complaining about the Jewish Canadians and their posts. How do you square that circle? You can't. You can't. This bill's a power grab. You're a clown.
About the mental health impacts of what people are experiencing online. You've seen the U.S. Surgeon General issue a warning Literally, like, think about, again, for those of you who are old enough, the 1960s, there's a warning: tobacco causes cancer. This is bad for your health. The U.S. Surgeon General has issued a warning about social media and what it does to young people. That's significant. We know that that is significant.
Right, but you're still not even encouraging kids to use their phone less. You're encouraging the government to babysit everybody who ever uses the internet in the country.
But what I find troubling is that I don't think anyone in Canada, regardless of whether they vote for me or hate my party's guts, I don't think anyone in Canada would countenance somebody taking a firearm into a mosque. No one's going to defend that because it's deplorable conduct. But I find it troubling that people will take less umbrage at the pernicious mental health impact and trauma that young people are experiencing who face hatred, what it does to their confidence levels, their self-esteem, their anxiety, their depression, their ability to engage. And that's something that we need to be thinking about. But
once again, stopping the hate online, you're interested in that, but not the fact that kids are glued to their screens. That part, I called it at the beginning. That aspect doesn't get talked about at all. The cell phone addiction doesn't get talked about at all. It's just no. We want the government to police speech. That's the only solution. No, we're not here to kill free speech in Canada and give the government an insane amount of power over speech and free expression across the country. No, not at all. No, this is to protect kids. Yeah.
I also reflect on you that when I stood at this podium and I mentioned Elise Beauvais, who was with me, also with me at the podium, which was a first since October 7th, was the National Council of Canadian Muslims and the Center for Jewish and Israeli Affairs. Why were they both there? Because they haven't been hanging out too much recently, to be blunt. They were both there because they know that online radicalization leads to targeting of both of their communities and leads to violence against both of their communities. That was salient for me.
The communities are attacking each other, though. Arif, you talk about that part? Oh man, we got to exploit that. There's got to be an exploitable video for that. How do you square that circle, man? Yeah, there's got to be something good there, because it really just blows up the absurdity of trying to police speech online. Hey, the Jewish advocacy group wants this bill because they're afraid of the Muslims, and the Muslim advocacy group also wants this bill because they don't like the Jews. This is all going to go very well. This is going to go great. This isn't going to be messy at all.
It's also salient that both of them are behind aspects of the bill that people want me to divide. So the people that say keep in the bits about child sex predators, but let's, that troubling criminal code stuff, let's just put that aside for now. We'll deal with that another time. In those criminal code provisions are things like a freestanding hate crimes offense. People have taken issue with that. Whoa, why do we need that? I gently point out that it exists in 47 out of 50 states south of the border. I haven't seen an erosion of free speech last time I checked in any of those 47 states south of the border. But I also point out that police officers are begging me for this.
What was that? 47 out of 50 states have a standalone hate motivated law? We got to fact check that. Never heard that
kind of provision. Now I'm going to get a bit into the weeds here. So where's Jess? Because I usually pick on Jess. Well, I'll pick on Keith this time. No, Jess is easier to pick on. I'll pick on Jess. Jess is floating around somewhere. If I throw a punch and I'm convicted of assaulting Jess, my female staffer, I might get 30 days in a provincial facility. If it is demonstrated that I threw the punch at Jess because I was motivated by misogyny, anti-female sentiment, my sentence could be increased because it's an aggravating factor. That's 718.2 of the criminal code. But you deal with it on the back end. And
no, your officer. No. I punched the woman. I don't hate women. Yeah, I may have punched her in the face, but I don't hate women. Yeah, okay, so I punched this woman in the face. Okay, sure. But I don't hate women. No. I just hate this woman. I swear. Like, it's funny that he's using this as an example without... He's like so out of touch of how absurd this is as an example. I kind of love it. I don't hate women. It was actually when I was chatting with, this is a very simple talking point, but it was from, I think it was Randy Hillier. He was like, if you murder somebody, chances are you hated them. But now we're going to have a hate motivated offense to add to like any criminal charge. Isn't it implicit that you hated them if you punched them? But no, but if we look at their social media and they posted something misogynistic, then we're going to up the charge. I mean, this honestly, he's talking about, hey, hate motivated hate crime charge. He's talking about it like it's a good thing. This would be the perfect tool for tyrants. This would be like the number one tool for tyrants. You could take all of these mischief charges from the protest, from the trucker convoy, and then you could tack on a hate motivated charge and say you did this because you hate group X. And now you're going away for life in prison because that's the maximum sentence for this standalone hate crime charge. Why do I feel like Arif Virani is not going to mention that part in this presentation? Because he's a swindler, because he's trying to take freedom of speech away, and he is a dishonest weasel.
We don't know how many of these incidents are actually motivated by hate because it only gets considered if a conviction is successful. And what police officers have said to me is that there's actually a lot more violence out there, where there's mischief, vandalism, trespass, assaults, even sexual assaults, or even murders that are happening that are hate motivated, but we're not laying the charge up front, so we don't have an ability to track it. So imagine a scenario where you've got...
How about you just enforce the law when people break the law? And adding this whole hate crime thing to it, like, what is the utility in that?
Thousands of such incidents. They still only result in hundreds of convictions, but we know the scope of the problem. That's what police have told.
Important context, too, is this guy is a lawyer. Do you know how much money lawyers would make if Bill C-63 passes? Do you know how, like, that'll create an entire new industry of lawyer and law, practically, to deal with hate crime charges. If you're a lawyer, that's a huge payday. That's awesome for you if you're a lawyer. You probably want Bill C-63 to pass if you're a lawyer. Oh, got more clients. Oh, got a new swimming pool. Got a new villa in Italy. Yeah, I fucking love hate crime. Let's go. That's something that people don't talk about, is how, the financial incentive that lawyers have to create more laws like this, where they just constantly have clients running around in and out of the courtroom, having their bill stack higher and higher because some poor person, I gotta fight the hate crime charge. Like, it would be a crazy boom for the law industry of like making money off of bullshit.
Police at hate crimes units in this very city are telling me that.
And yeah, Arif is a lawyer. So again, another thing that he would never talk about, and that I don't think any lawyer would publicly talk about, is the sort of financial incentive, the dollar signs and the eyeballs of these lawyers when they hear about Bill C-63.
But those groups that are targeted are also telling me that, what's a good part about your bill? You're increasing the penalties for these types of crimes. For willful promotion of hatred, public incitement of hatred, advocating genocide. That's what's in the bill. And the last response I have to people who tell me, why don't we just divide it up? It'd be just so much easier, such low-hanging fruit just to protect the kids, is that what I say to them is that, I've looked internationally at examples about this bill. And Australia is one example we've looked at really closely. And Australia moved in this area in 2015. In 2015, 9 years ago, they dealt with children. 9 years later, Australia has gone way beyond just dealing with children. If I'm moving for the first time as a minister of the Crown to deal with this issue, I think it's incumbent upon me to address the issue as we see it now, not as the world saw it 9 years ago. So I think that's really, really important. There's a lot of components about the bill that my staff hate this because I've deviated wildly from the order that they laid things out here in my comments. But there's people that have talked to me extensively about this bill, and they said, Arif, it looks like this is just you manufacturing sort of your own vision of Canada.
This is you manufacturing your, yeah.
And they said to me quite candidly that, it looks like a bold-faced attack on freedom of expression in this country.
Yo, let's clip that. That's a good clip. That's a good clip.
This is just you manufacturing sort of your own vision of Canada.
This is a bold-faced attack on freedom of speech in this country.
They said to me quite candidly that, it looks like a bold-faced attack on freedom of expression in this country.
Totally real. He's right.
And to that, I have several responses.
Let's hear it. Let's hear the bullshit.
The first is that freedom of expression is fundamental in a democracy. And I say that as somebody who at a very tender age but nevertheless, my family fled an authoritarian regime in East Africa, the regime of Idi Amin. So if you want a family that venerates Canada and everything it represents, it's probably my family. If you want somebody who's going to defend freedom of expression under Section 2B of the Charter, it's probably me as Minister of Justice, not only because I practice constitutional law, but because my oath as a cabinet minister is different from every one of my colleagues. We all pledge allegiance to the king, and we all...
I'm so tired of this disingenuous. I love free speech is so important. Hey guys, I said free speech. I said I care about it. Okay, that's why we're passing hate speech laws. Okay, but I talked about loving free speech. Like, it's just, I'm so tired of how disingenuous this stuff is.
all pledge to keep cabinet confidence. I pledge to uphold the Constitution, and I take that very, very seriously. But the most important thing I will say to you about freedom of expression is that hate speech is not constitutionally protected speech. Okay?
Says you. What do you mean? Like, says you. What is hate speech? Like, this is... When I first started researching this bill, like, no one defines hate. Like, hate just, like, does not get defined. The only thing... Yeah, and it's ridiculous.
I'm just going to repeat that. In this country, hate speech is not constitutionally protected speech.
He's casting a spell again.
That begs the question that if we don't protect it in the physical space, me here on the campus at TMU, why would we protect it online? Okay? It begs the question about, okay, well then, Virani, what's the definition of hatred? Like, did you just concoct this on the back of a napkin in some bar in Ottawa? The answer is no, I did not.
It was actually in one of the offices in Ottawa.
Because we thought about this. We thought about the kind of criticism that we would face. We thought, what would be the safest thing? We're going to codify a definition that already exists. Whose definition? The Supreme Court of Canada.
The Supreme Court of Canada's definition. Yeah, it's not a good definition, though. It's not a good... intensely disliking is what hatred means. This is such a terrible, like, defense, though. I was expecting a better response than this. This is terrible.
From two cases. Keegstra and Whatcott. Whatcott is a 2013 decision of the Supreme Court. I encourage you to look it up, the definitions around paragraphs 42 to 47. Read those 5 paragraphs. What does it say? It says hatred is detestation and vilification. Hatred is not insulting comments, offensive comments, expressions of disdain or dislike. Okay? Why do I point that out? People love to ask me, you've done a lot of stuff in your career. How does it help inform you in terms of what you're doing now? I say it helps inform me all the time. It helped that I practice constitutional law in this city. It helped that I was a UN war crimes prosecutor on the Rwandan genocide. You know how Tutsis were described in Rwanda in 1994? As cockroaches that should be stamped out. That's called detestation and vilification, when you dehumanize another.
Well, sorry. So any version of dehumanizing is detestation and it's so annoying. It's so disingenuous the way in which he's like, these words are so important, and then he's just kind of lumping them all together with the very first example.
What that definition does is it sets a high bar. It's not going to affect access.
No, it doesn't. It really does not. It really does not set a high bar, and that's the whole problem.
On Toronto on October 17th. It's not going to affect colorful jokes at a Yuck comedy cabaret. It's not even going to affect people who have legitimate criticisms about our immigration policy.
See, he says this now, but it's like a trust me, bro. This is like a trust me, bro. This moment is like a trust me, bro. Trust me, bro. You won't get in trouble for that. Let's just pass the law. Okay? Trust me, bro. You'll be fine. All this will be fine. No one, hey, just trust me, bro. I know the legislation is totally broad and open to interpretation, but just trust me, bro. You'll be fine.
Including which country people are coming in from. People express to me all the time, as recently as 2 weeks ago in my riding on somebody's porch, you have too many people coming in from this particular country. That is legitimate debate in Canadian society. That is protected speech. But what it is going to draw differentiation from is between a casual racial slur, what I call awful but lawful language, and somebody who calls for the extermination of a people. That's detestation and vilification.
Once again, he's kind of muddying the waters. He's conflating two things. Now he's saying that he said, calling people cockroaches That's detestation. That's vilification. Well, it's also dehumanization. So wait, is calling people cockroaches detestation, vilification, dehumanization, or all three? Personally, I think it's just dehumanization. Does that also imply, is dehumanization, is that also part of what's hatred? Is that also one of the things? Is dehumanization always detestation? Is it always vilification? And also calling for the death of a group of people, is that detestation or is that vilification? Or is that something else entirely where it's, inciting violence, which is something that's already illegal, if I'm not mistaken. And really annoying that this is supposed to be the top expert on this bill, and he's not caring to actually differentiate any of these things. He's just giving us the bullshit Cole's notes of like, hey, don't worry, hey, bro, trust me, hey, trust me, bro. Hey, we thought about this a lot, all right? It's a really high bar. Detestation, hey, you wouldn't call someone a cockroach, would you? You wouldn't call for the death of people, would you? Yeah, let's just pass this fucking bill through already. Shut up.
For those who say to me, oh my God, Virani, you're going to open the floodgates. Every casual comment about Colin Kaepernick taking a knee during the American national anthem in a football game is going to throw me in jail. I call BS on that, to be blunt. Because if you think hatred prosecutions, because it's the same standard, we have the same laws, if you think they're easy to apply right now, you're wrong. They're sparing, partly because most hatred prosecutions require the consent of an attorney general. That remains on the books because of the careful civil liberties that are at stake. What I also say is look closely at what we're doing, but also what we're not doing. Because, again, we looked around the planet. 6 countries.
Trust me, bro. Trust me, bro. Don't worry. We won't abuse this, bro. It won't be abused, bro. It's funny how he's like, yeah, and this someone said they're worried about a Colin Kaepernick tweak. I call bullshit. What do you mean you call bullshit? Like, you're the one making the law, bro. You shouldn't have to call bullshit. You should calmly be saying that is simply incorrect. You know what I mean? I call bullshit. He's like very antagonistic against his critics.
Have moved in this area already. Australia,
it's giving,
Germany, Ireland, France.
It's giving insecure. It's giving tyrant. It's giving that he didn't write the script today. So
the UK. In the UK, they decided to wade into private communications. Our bill does not. Our bill does not talk about individually hosted websites that don't host user-generated content, right? In France, they went too far on freedom of expression. Their bill was struck down. This calibrates in an important manner. The other thing.
What he's missing, of course, is that the online harms bill in the UK, I forget what it's called. It's very similar name to ours. Ours is Online Harms Act. Theirs is like Online Harms Bill. Yeah, there are people who are being thrown in jail for criticizing immigration, Arif. So that is happening with the bill that you've modeled after in the UK. So you're lying. You're lying to people. You're not telling people that in the UK, the online harms bill that they passed is throwing people in jail for simply attending a protest, for simply voicing a particular political opinion, and these people are getting persecuted and thrown in jail under this so-called online harms legislation that you want to pass. But you're telling people fully throated saying that's not going to happen here. It's happening in the UK with a piece of legislation that you're modeling yours after. Why are you so full of shit? Like, why is it so easy for you to lie about this? And like, if I'm wrong, if you're not lying, then maybe you should clarify why that's different. Because as far as I can tell, you have not.
It's really, really important to understand. You can tell I'm a bit sort of engaged on this because I've been dealing with it for a few months now, is that we've got the law, we've got the definition.
Oh.
Who's going to apply that definition? Great question. Very great question. Who's going to apply the definition? So let's go back to Jess. I don't even know where she went, but she's around here somewhere. If Jess feels that something is offside.
I just want to I want to rewind that a bit. Because like I said, it's giving insecure. It's giving like totally full of shit. Just like, look at his body language when he says all this. Who's going to apply that definition? I'll tell you who. Yeah, no, we got it. We know.
The other thing that's really, really important to understand, you can tell I'm a bit sort of engaged on this because I've been dealing with it for a few months now.
Hey, Canada RV with the $10. Thank you for the super chat, sir. Would you be able to display my channel in chat, Greg? It's brand new and could use your help. Tube is hiding me. Well, you're in the super chats right now. There he is. Click on it. If you're in the chat, Canada RV, check out his channel. He paid $10. There you go. Thank you for advertising on the YouTube stream. What do you got going on over there? You got RVs or what? Thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. We're going to get through here. We're going to keep going.
Is that we've got the law, we've got the definition. Who's going to apply that definition? Great question. Very great question.
It's a good question.
Who's going to apply the definition?
Yeah,
so
good question.
Let's go back to Jess. I don't even know where she went, but she's around here somewhere. If Jess feels that something is offside the definition of hatred, Jess puts up her hand. The next step is for Meta. So Meta is going to say, well, here's the definition of hatred. Do we agree with Jess or not? Meta can then decide to moderate Jess's exposure to that material. Meta is not taking it down. Very important point. Right? I told you what's coming down. Child sex abuse material, revenge porn comes down 24 hours. All this other stuff, we got to reduce Jess's exposure to it, but we're not taking it out of the public domain. If you still think Meta's decision maybe wasn't robust enough or is too robust, too aggressive, who deals with it? The Digital Safety Commission. They come in and they say to Meta, well, we don't think you've got the balance right here. If you still feel aggrieved that, no, that wasn't hatred, that Jess is wrong, Meta's wrong, the Digital Safety Commission's wrong, you go to court. You know what's important about all four of those actors? Jess, Meta, the Digital Safety Commission, and the court? None of them are named Arif Virani or Justin Trudeau.
What? What? But they're your best friends. What are you talking about? What kind of argument is this? It's fellow bureaucrats right next to you who you probably pick and choose to put on the Digital Safety Commission. What are you talking about? This talking point is so bad, Arif. What the? Am I dreaming? Like that is just so. You know the best thing about the Digital Safety Commission? They're not me and Justin Trudeau. Yeah, but they're going to be people that you pick to be on the Digital Safety Commission. Like what the? Terrible argument. Oh my God, that's bad.
This is not something where we as political officials weighed in on what's going to be in the public domain or not. This is where other actors, the four that I listed.
We are not public officials wading into what is in the public domain or not. That's the whole point of you making this bill, is you saying, I need to protect, that was the whole introduction of this presentation, Arif, of you saying, I am going to determine what's good and what's not good on the Canadian internet, and I'm going to decide, and I'm going to make this happen with Bill C-63. That's the whole premise of you, is to wade into the public domain of what is allowed and what is not allowed.
Apply a definition that's entrenched in the statute. That's really, really fundamental for people to understand.
Looks like AI. I'm not AI.
Other thing that has come up a great deal about this legislation in terms of sort of people criticizing this stuff, well, we like the points that deal with children and how we prosecute children, because we're beefing that up as well, where we can
prosecute
there's a
children?
preservation of the data. The Metas of the world have to transfer that data to an RCMP, Child Exploitation Center. They're clearly scoped into the bill, etc.
That sounds super creepy. Hey, was your child sexually exploited? Just send all the photos to the RCMP. Okay. I think we're trying to understand what this is really about here.
But when people say to me that, okay, you've explained to me a bit about the criminal code stuff, but you've got this Human Rights Act aspect. I'm not sure about this Human Rights Act stuff. Like, why should people be able to raise their hand and say, this is hate speech that's...
I love how he's going over all of, people's concerns with the bill, and it's like, hey, what about all this hate speech stuff? It's like, no, it's fine. And now he's like, yeah, what about all this human rights stuff? And he's like, no, it's fine. Like, there's so many excuses that he has to give to try and rationalize this trash piece of legislation. It's very funny. Keep dancing, keep singing and dancing, buddy. Keep dancing for us, monkey boy.
Discriminatory and complain about it in front of the Human Rights Commission. And, didn't we remove that as a parliament in 2013? And you're right, the previous government did remove that under Stephen Harper.
Yeah, we did.
That removal deprived people of a route and a recourse vis-a-vis the individual author of the material. So understand that when we talk about the Digital Safety Commission, that layout that I just gave you, that was all vis-a-vis Meta and what it's exposing me to or not online. But here you would have Jess feeling aggrieved by an individual, Arif Virani, and what recourse would she have against me personally? People say, well, you're going to flood. It's going to be all full of BS complaints and bad faith complaints. And
so real.
It's going to just inundate the commission and, oh my God, the sky will fall.
Actually, we know this based on what happened when Section 13 of the Human Rights Code was already in effect. And it wasn't necessarily a flood. It would be a flood now because a lot's changed since then. Everyone's sensitive to microaggressions now, Arif. I'm sure you can appreciate that because you opened up your entire presentation about how sensitive you are to the color of your skin and all this type of stuff. And you want to, what was it? You want to protect people from, defend people from safety. But no, we know that the most of the complaints from Section 13 were like someone abusing the piece of legislation. I can't believe he's trying to defend this. This is so funny. This is really good, actually. We'll probably clip this into something.
People say, well, you're going to flood. It's going to be all full of BS complaints and bad faith complaints, and it's going to just inundate the commission, and oh my God, the sky will fall. Yeah, we thought about that because we heard about it. So there's 4 ways specifically how we address that.
Oh.
So the first is that we define hatred. The same definition I told you applies across the act. So Arif.
So it's not, yeah, again, very broad definition. You say that it's a high bar. It's really not.
Casual comments do not arise to detestation or vilification unless I'm doing things like calling for the extermination of a people. Secondly,
again, he's muddying the waters. Extermination, like calling for the extermination of people, is already something that's illegal. It's called incitement in the States, whatever it's called here. That's already something that is considered criminal speech, calling for the death of people. And he's saying, no, detestation and vilification, that's only calling for the death of people. No, it's not. Again, you're supposed to be the expert on this bill, and you're just muddying together all of these words to justify your bullshit. It's very, very detestable, Arif. Come on. It's very dishonest.
We said to the Human Rights Commission that if somebody's going to raise a complaint under this new Section 13 provision, that you have the ability to summarily dismiss it. So for the budding lawyers in the room, a summary dismissal mechanism is sort of a prima facie, the case has not been made out. They just dismiss it out of hand. No hearing, nothing, just gone. Third, they've always had the ability to weed out frivolous or vexatious complaints. And fourth, rarely in an administrative context, if somebody has used the process and is deemed to have abused the process of the Canadian Human Rights Commission, costs can be ordered against them. So it takes time and money to deal with some of these things at the Canadian Human Rights Commission. So you can have a punitive order of costs. So if Jess felt aggrieved and I abused the provision, she gets costs ordered against me and I pay for her legal costs.
Like I'm just thinking about, oh man, like we already have so much useless bureaucracy in this country, and more of it is catering to like DEI stuff, diversity, equity, inclusion. And this would really be like the holy grail, bringing in more human rights court stuff. All this taxpayer money spent on a bunch of complaints from people. Oh my God, dude. Like, what a nightmare this country would become if this passes.
These are significant, and these help calibrate the impact of that measure, which I think is really, really important. The
okay, what's your last
key
bullshit?
Piece, I think, about the legislation is that what we're trying to do is ensure online safety for all Canadians. And we're trying to meet them where they are with respect to the threats that they're facing. Children, adolescents, adults. I think that's really, really critical. What we're trying to do is ensure that we are not leaving any particular group behind. But
Really? Talk about the burning churches, bro. Talk about the convoy protesters who had a car driven into them. They got vilified by the Prime Minister. We're not going to talk about that. We don't want to leave anyone out.
Trying to ensure that people can engage online fundamentally and engage in a safe manner.
It's like totally the opposite of, no, you want to silence and censor people and take away content that you deem harmful.
What I'd say to you is that I hope you're interested in this bill. No doubt you are, because you're here at this kind of forum. And what I would say to you is that I also need you to be reflective of Canada's reality. Is that this isn't cookie cutter legislation. This is legislation that involves a lot of factors, and people have voices and concerns that they want to raise. And what I want is for those voices and concerns to be raised. Most specifically, if you have ideas about how to improve the bill, strengthen it, how to attenuate it or make it more detailed and precise, those are exactly what I want to hear both now, but also when this bill gets to committee. Because at the Justice Committee is exactly where, through parliamentary process, we're meant to be hearing about how to improve the bill.
I got a great solution for the bill. I got a really good thing for the bill, actually. This will actually be great. I think I have the perfect solution for the bill. Check this out. I think this is probably something like this. What do you guys think? I think that's pretty good for the bill. I think this would be great for the bill. Maybe this one. I think this would be good for. This is what we can do with Bill C-63 right here. That one actually. I think this is some good. This is my suggestion, Arif. I think this would be probably best for Bill C-63. This right here. This image of a trash can. Because it should be thrown in the trash. Let us know if you want to do anything to fix it. Just throw it out, guys. Just throw it out. There's nothing good in there. It's a shameless power grab from a flailing liberal government. It's quite pathetic to watch, actually. But, I mean, with any luck, Reef will kind of lose his credibility as this bill kind of crashes and burns. But if you want to ensure that happens, make sure you support SaveFreeSpeech.ca. Guys, we are making a documentary that's exposing the agenda behind pushing this bill and really how biased it's going to be and how that's really all part of a censorship industry or a political suppression industry to target people who have the wrong opinion in Canada. If you want to support that, go to givesendgo.com/savefreespeech. We got a couple more minutes here and then I'm going to wrap it up real quick like. Where are we? Where'd it go? There we go.
But what I'd say to you is that it's really critical that it gets to committee. And here's where I'm just going to issue a plain call to action. That we are in a minority parliament. Right. I was just talking to some Americans and they can't fathom how there'd be like 4.5 parties and how does that work, et cetera. What do you mean you could have a snap election, et cetera, et cetera. So I walked them through all of that. But in a minority parliament, we need what we call a dance partner, right? We need another party to support us getting this to committee and getting this through the House of Commons. What I'd say to you quite candidly is please engage with parliamentarians. You can engage with liberals as much as you want. But what I would really encourage you to do is engage with the NDP. And also engage with the Bloc Québécois. So if that means dusting off your Larousse and your Bechamel, if you don't know what I'm talking about, going on to Google Translate so you can translate a letter in English into French, please reach out to different parliamentarians because it is the Bloc and the NDP that can help us expedite this bill and its passage to the House of Commons. But it will not happen without Canadians standing up and speaking out for what they believe is necessary. Because I firmly believe in the importance of ensuring that Canadians and all Canadians, children, adolescents, and adults are protected from what they're facing online and empowered to participate online. So I will leave it there and I'll be very happy to entertain your questions.
Wow. What so much. I feel like I need to shower after all that bullshit. Jeez Louise. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I just wanted to cover that, react to that. Again, if you want to help save free speech in Canada, go to givesendgo.com/savefreespeech. We're making a documentary. Check out the website, savefreespeech.ca as well. We got a mailing list. At the bottom of every page, there's a little link to the mailing list to stay updated. You can join our newsletter. But aside from that, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I saw another super chat. Can I go back up and read it? Thank you, Canada RV, for the $5. I meant for you, Greg. Post the direct link for them to click on it and in chat. You being an owner, you can do it by clicking on my name. All right, buddy. There you go. There's Canada RV's channel. Thanks for watching, guys. Yeah, till next time. Thanks for watching. Cheers. Do 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 do.